In the year 2011, Elon Musk was asked about a small Chinese car company nobody in the West had heard of. He laughed. "I don't think they have a great product," he said. 14 years later, that company sold more electric cars in a single year than Tesla did. Its name is BYD, and it did not invent a single piece of core EV technology. It copied, it adapted, and then it outbuilt the man who invented the entire category. This is not one story. This is a pattern. By the end of this video, you will understand why China's strategy of copying first and innovating second has made it the most dangerous economic competitor the world has seen in a century, and why the 10 companies you're about to meet should be required reading for every business leader on Earth. This is not about stealing ideas. This is about what happens when a nation makes speed, cost, and scale into a weapon. And do not forget to comment which coping company has impressed you most. Then, on the next video, we will do detailed story about that. Here's the part most people get wrong. They think China's rise is about cheap labor. It isn't. Not anymore. It's about a playbook, a repeatable, almost mechanical process. Find something the West already built, study it, strip out everything expensive, rebuild it faster, cheaper, and closer to the customer. Then scale it at a speed no Western board of directors would ever approve. The Chinese have a word for the early, rougher version of this, shanzhai. It literally means mountain fortress, a term originally used for bandit strongholds outside the law. But something happened along the way. The copies stopped being cheap knockoffs. They started beating the originals. And it didn't happen in one industry. It happened in cars, in phones, in social media, in trains, in solar panels, in fashion, in drones. 10 industries, 10 companies, one playbook. Let's count them down, from the quiet takeovers you've never thought about to the one now threatening the most valuable car company on the planet. Number 10, WeChat, October 2010. A tiny Canadian startup called Kik launches a messaging app. It gets 1 million users in 15 days. Nobody in North America thinks twice about it. But 9,000 miles away, in Tencent's offices in Guangzhou, a quiet, reclusive engineer named Alan Zhang sees it and panics. He fires off a late-night email to his CEO, Pony Ma, warning that mobile messaging could kill Tencent's entire empire. Pony's reply was 4 characters. Do it now. 2 months later, Zhang's team launched a bare-bones copy of Kik. They called it Weixin. You know it as WeChat. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. WeChat didn't stop at messaging. It absorbed Facebook's newsfeed. It absorbed PayPal. It absorbed TikTok's short videos before TikTok existed. It absorbed food delivery, ride-hailing, even government ID verification. One app, every function of a smartphone folded into a single icon. Today, over 1 billion people open WeChat every single day, not to send one message, but to run their entire digital life. A copied chat app became the blueprint for what Silicon Valley now calls the super app. And Western tech giants are still trying to catch up to something China built off the back of a 15-day-old Canadian startup. That's number 10. But copying a chat app is one thing. What happened next was copying an entire generation's attention span. Number 9, TikTok. In 2014, an app called musical.ly let American teenagers lip-sync to 15-second clips of music. Across the ocean, a company called ByteDance was already running a nearly identical app in China called Douyin. Douyin wasn't just a copy. It had one thing musical.ly didn't. A terrifyingly precise recommendation algorithm built from ByteDance's earlier news app. In 2017, ByteDance bought musical.ly for $1 billion. They shut it down. They folded its 60 million Western users straight into their own app. They renamed it TikTok. What happened next should have been impossible. A Chinese company took a Western idea, rebuilt it with Chinese engineering, and then beat every single American social media company at its own game, on American soil. By 2018, TikTok was the most downloaded app on Earth. And it triggered something no other company on this list has triggered: an actual push in the United States Congress to ban it outright, over fears that a foreign algorithm now controls what an entire generation sees, thinks, and buys. Think about that for a moment. A copied lip sync app became powerful enough to worry the United States government. If a copy can do that to social media, what happens when the copy is your smartphone? Number 8. Xiaomi. Lei Jun read a book about Steve Jobs as a college freshman. He couldn't sleep for days. Decades later, he stood on stage in a black turtleneck, unveiling a phone that looked, worked, and launched almost exactly like an iPhone, for half the price. Apple's own chief designer, Johnny Ive, called it theft. Chinese media had a nickname for Lei Jun: Leibos, half Lei, half Jobs. Xiaomi leaned into it, and it worked. By 2014, Xiaomi was the third largest smartphone maker on Earth, behind only Samsung and Apple. But here's the twist that should genuinely worry Silicon Valley. In 2021, Xiaomi announced it was building an electric car. Apple had been trying to build a car for nearly a decade and quietly killed the project in 2024 after burning billions of dollars with nothing to show for it. Xiaomi launched its car in March 2024. Within 19 months, it was profitable. Apple couldn't finish the race. Xiaomi, the company once mocked as a copycat, crossed the finish line first, in a category Apple invented and abandoned. That's not imitation anymore. That's out-executing the original. And if you think that's unsettling, wait until you see what happened in the sky. Number 7. DJI. In 2006, a university student named Frank Wang built a flight control system in his dorm room in Hong Kong. Nobody was interested. He was in debt. The drone market barely existed. But by 2013, Wang's company, DJI, released the Phantom, a ready-to-fly camera drone that made expensive rivals like GoPro's own drone project instantly obsolete. GoPro tried to fight back. Wang cut his prices in half. Then he cut them again. GoPro's founder eventually admitted defeat, saying his company should have stuck to software and left hardware manufacturing to Chinese companies. Today, DJI controls somewhere between 70 and 90% of the entire global drone market, commercial and consumer combined. There is almost no rival left standing. Number 6. Alibaba. In 2002, eBay entered China with 85% market share and $2 billion in revenue behind it. Jack Ma had almost nothing, so he built a free copy of eBay's marketplace and called it Taobao, digging for treasure. eBay's leadership scoffed. Free is not a business model, they said. But Taobao wasn't just free. It solved a problem eBay refused to touch: trust. Chinese shoppers were terrified of paying for goods that would never arrive. So Alibaba built an escrow system. The buyer's money was held until the item showed up and was confirmed good. That single feature changed everything. By March 2006, 4 years after eBay entered with total dominance, eBay's China market share had collapsed to under 30%. Taobao's had climbed to 67%. eBay didn't just lose. It packed up and left China entirely. A company that started as a defensive knockoff of an American giant ended up becoming the foundation of what is now one of the largest e-commerce empires on the planet. Number 5. Pinduoduo and Temu. In 2015, a former Google engineer named Colin Huang looked at two very different Western business models, Costco's bulk discounts and Groupon's group deals, and fused them into one idea. He called it Pinduoduo. The pitch, in his own words, Costco's value with Disneyland's fun. Users could unlock lower prices by inviting friends to buy the same item. It felt less like shopping and more like a game. It worked almost too well. Then, in 2022, Pinduoduo launched its international version, Temu. Temu's rise in the United States was so fast it broke the charts. In a single year, its American app usage grew by over 4,000%, and on November 28, 2023, for the first time in history, Pinduoduo's parent company briefly became more valuable on the stock market than Alibaba itself. The student had passed the teacher. Number 4. Shein. Zara built its entire identity on speed, getting a design from sketch to store shelf in weeks, not months. For decades, nobody could match it. Then came Shein. Shein didn't just match Zara's speed, it shattered it. Instead of weeks, Shein could take a trending item from concept to your doorstep in days, powered by thousands of small factories in China, all wired directly into real-time sales data. No physical stores, no massive marketing budgets, just an app, an algorithm, and 6,000 new styles added every single day. By 2022, Shein had done the unthinkable. It surpassed Zara to become the largest fashion retailer on Earth by sales, generating over $30 billion a year. A company most shoppers can't even name the founder of had quietly dethroned a 50-year-old Spanish institution with 2,000 physical stores. 4 companies down. Every single one of them started by watching the West, and every single one of them ended up eating the market share of the company they copied. But the next 3 stories aren't about apps or fashion anymore. They're about the physical infrastructure the entire modern economy runs on. Number 3. High-speed rail. In the early 1990s, China had almost no high-speed rail. Japan had the Shinkansen since 1964. Germany and France had decades of engineering lead. So China made every foreign company an offer they couldn't refuse. Want to sell us trains? Fine, but you have to build them here, and you have to teach us how. Siemens, Alstom, Bombardier, and Kawasaki all agreed. They needed the contracts. China needed the knowledge. The Chinese called the process digestion and re-innovation. Take what you're given, understand every part of it, then improve it. By 2008, China had its first high-speed line, running on foreign technology platforms. By 2017, it had 20,000 kilometers of high-speed track, more than the rest of the world combined. Today, that number has more than doubled. China now holds roughly 2/3 of all the high-speed rail track on the planet, and it's begun exporting its own version of the technology to other countries, including the very nations it once learned from. This is the moment the pattern crossed a line. This wasn't a phone. This wasn't an app. This was critical national infrastructure, built by absorbing the knowledge of 4 different global superpowers, then outbuilding every one of them combined. If China could do that to railroads, what could it do to the energy that powers the entire planet? Number 2. Solar panels. Here's a fact that should stop you in your seat. Solar power, as a commercial technology, wasn't pioneered by China. It was pioneered largely by Germany, Japan, and the United States. As recently as the early 2000s, a handful of Western and Japanese firms controlled the core material, ultra-pure polysilicon, with profit margins over 50%. They weren't willing to share the technology, so Chinese manufacturers built their own factories, their own equipment, and their own supply chains from scratch, often at a fraction of the import cost. The bet paid off beyond anything Germany could have imagined. By 2024, China was producing over 90% of the world's polysilicon, 96% of solar wafers, and more than 80% of finished solar panels. Germany, the country that helped invent the modern solar cell, now produces a rounding error of the world's supply. This is not one company anymore. This is an entire nation controlling the physical supply chain behind the global transition to clean energy. Every solar panel on your neighbor's roof in nearly every country on Earth was very likely built on Chinese-controlled infrastructure. A technology the West invented is now a technology only China can scale. And if that unsettles you, brace yourself, because the final story on this list isn't about panels on a rooftop. It's about the machine sitting in your driveway. Number 1. BYD. Let's go back to where we started. BYD, short for Build Your Dreams, was founded in 1995, not as a car company, but as a battery manufacturer. By 2003, it was the world's largest maker of rechargeable batteries for mobile phones. Then it made an unusual bet. It bought a struggling Chinese automaker and pivoted its battery expertise straight into electric vehicles. For years, nobody in the West took it seriously. Musk laughed at the idea of BYD as competition. He said flatly he didn't see them as a threat. Here's what happened instead. BYD built its own battery technology, the Blade battery, safer and cheaper than many rivals. It's now used not just in BYD's own cars, but licensed to Toyota, Ford, Mercedes-Benz, and even, in some models, Tesla itself. By 2024, BYD's revenue hit $107 billion, edging past Tesla's annual sales for the first time in company history. By the end of 2025, the gap had become undeniable. BYD sold 2.25 million pure electric vehicles for the year. Tesla sold 1.64 million, an 8% decline from the year before. The man who laughed in 2011 spent 2025 watching the company he dismissed become the largest electric vehicle seller on Earth. 10 companies, 10 industries, 1 country. One repeatable strategy. Copy the concept, strip the cost, outbuild the original at a speed no Western boardroom could ever approve. Here is the uncomfortable truth for every business leader watching this. None of these 10 companies won by inventing something new first. They won by refusing to accept the price, the speed, or the scale that the original inventor thought was good enough. The West optimized for being first. China optimized for being unbeatable. And in a global economy, unbeatable wins more often than first does. The next time you hear that a Chinese company has copied something, don't laugh the way Elon Musk once did. Ask yourself one question instead. What happens when they finish building it? Because based on the last 2 decades, the answer is almost always the same. They don't just catch up. They take the crown. If you had watched the entire video, you have surely liked the video. You should not miss the next video. Please subscribe and hit the like button.